Most people have no idea that in 1883, a volcano made a sound so impossibly loud it physically ruptured the eardrums of sailors standing 65 kilometers away, and was still heard by people living in Australia, India, and the island of Rodrigues, nearly 5,000 kilometers from the blast. To this day, scientists call it the loudest sound ever recorded in human history. And what happened next? Nobody expected this. That silence you just heard? That's not dramatic editing. That's what the world sounded like before everything changed. Because on the 27th of August, 1883, the sky itself broke open. Let's rewind. The year is 1883. The Dutch East Indies, what we call Indonesia today, is a chain of islands sitting directly on top of what geologists now call the Ring of Fire, a zone of volcanic fury that encircles the entire Pacific Ocean. Nestled in the Sunda Strait, between the islands of Java and Sumatra, sits a tiny volcanic island, its name Krakatoa. For months, Krakatoa had been restless. Locals reported rumblings, steam venting, minor eruptions, but nobody, not the Dutch colonial officials, not the scientists, not the 36,000 people living nearby, truly understood what was building beneath the surface. Scientists were shocked when, in the summer of 1883, pressure readings in the magma chamber began climbing to levels they had never seen before. The volcano wasn't just waking up. It was loading itself like the world's largest cannon. And then, on the morning of August 26th, it started. Minor explosio. Ash clouds. Locals began to worry. But nobody ran. Because nobody could imagine what was about to happen at 10:02 a.m. the following morning. This changes everything we know about what sound actually is and what it can do to a planet. Fact number 1. It was heard in 50 different countries. When Krakatoa finally detonated on the 27th of August, 1883, the sound traveled across oceans. Police officers in Rodrigues, a tiny island near Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, reported what they thought were cannon shots from a ship in distress. They searched the sea. There was no ship. What they were hearing was a volcano erupting 4,800 kilometers away. Scientists were shocked when they cross-referenced dozens of historical records and realized the same sound had been independently reported across Asia, Africa, and Australia. One explosion, 50 countries, a single boom that touched half the Earth. Fact number 2. The sound wave circled the Earth not once, not twice, 4 times. Barometers, instruments that measure atmospheric pressure, were already widespread in 1883. Scientists discovered that after the eruption, a massive pressure wave rolled across the globe. It was so powerful it was detectable by barometers in London, New York, and Vienna. And then it bounced back and came again. Scientists tracking the data recorded the pressure wave, passing their stations 7 times over the next 5 days, a full circle of Earth, 4 times in each direction. Nobody expected this. No sound event in recorded history has ever done this before or since. Fact number 3. The explosion was 10,000 times louder than any nuclear bomb test ever recorded. Scientists estimate Krakatoa peaked at around 310 decibels at the source. To understand how terrifying that number is, a jet engine at close range is 140 decibels. Every 10 decibels is a 10-fold increase in intensity. At 194 decibels, sound stops being sound and becomes a physical shockwave, a wall of compressed air that can rupture organs. Krakatoa was generating over 100 decibels more than that. Sailors on ships 65 kilometers away had their eardrums physically burst. The shockwave alone threw people off their feet. This changes everything we know about the upper boundary of what sound can even be. Fact number 4. The tsunamis it created killed more people than the explosion itself. The eruption triggered a series of tsunamis, some reaching 30 meters, taller than a 10-story building. Coastal villages were erased in seconds. The Dutch warship Beru was carried nearly 3 kilometers inland by the wave and left sitting in a jungle, its entire crew dead. Of the estimated 36,000 people killed, the vast majority drowned. Nobody expected the sea itself to become the weapon. Fact number 5. Krakatoa turned the sky red for 2 years. The eruption injected so much ash and sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere that it circled the globe and blocked sunlight for nearly 2 years. Average global temperatures dropped by over 1 degree Celsius. Harvests failed across Europe and North America. The famous blood red and vivid orange sunsets painted by European artists in 1883 and 1884, scientists have confirmed those weren't artistic exaggeration. That was Krakatoa. The volcano literally painted the sky of the entire planet. Fact number 6. It created a brand new island, and that island is still growing today. The original Krakatoa volcano collapsed so violently during the eruption that it sank beneath the sea entirely. But below the surface, magma kept pushing up. In 192744 years later, a new volcanic island emerged from the ocean in the exact same location. Scientists named it Anak Krakatoa, child of Krakatoa. It has been growing and erupting ever since. In 2018, it partially collapsed into the sea, triggering another devastating tsunami that killed over 400 people. Krakatoa is not done. It never stopped. Now, I want you to imagine something with me. What if Krakatoa happened today? Not in 1883. Not in a world of sailing ships and telegraph wires. Today, right now, within milliseconds of the eruption, every seismograph on Earth would trigger simultaneously. Every satellite system orbiting the planet would detect the atmospheric shockwave. Social media would be flooded before most people even had time to look out their windows. But here's the terrifying part. None of that would save you. Because the sound wave travels at the speed of sound, you cannot outrun it. You cannot drive away from it. By the time any warning system could reach the hundreds of millions of people living near the Indonesian coastline, the wave would already have arrived. The tsunamis enhanced by modern climate-warmed seas could swallow Jakarta, a city of 34 million people. Gone. The ash cloud would ground every aircraft within 3,000 kilometers immediately. Global air travel, the system that moves 4 million people every single day, would collapse within hours. Supply chains that depend on sea routes through the Sunda Strait carrying oil, food, electronics would be severed overnight. Scientists were shocked when modern climate models revealed that a Krakatoa-scale volcanic winter today, with a global population of 8 billion dependent on just-in-time food supply chains, could trigger famines affecting hundreds of millions of people within 18 months. Not because of the explosion, because of the missing sunlight, because of the failed harvests. And Anak Krakatoa, the child of Krakatoa, is still there. Right now. Still growing. Still erupting. Scientists monitor it constantly, knowing it sits on a magma reservoir that has been refilling for over 140 years. This changes everything we know about how fragile our modern world actually is. We have built a civilization of 8 billion people on a planet that can scream loud enough to circle itself 4 times, and not one human government on Earth has a plan that could fully protect against it. Here is what I want you to carry with you after this video ends. On the morning of the 27th of August, 1883, a 36-year-old British sea captain named W.J. Watson was sailing through the Sunda Strait on a ship called the Charles Ball. He was close enough to witness the final explosion. In his log, he wrote, "The sky was one vast fiery mass. The air was thick with falling pumice and dust. The sounds could not be described. We could not hear ourselves speak. A man who sailed the seas his entire life, a man who had heard storms, cannon fire, crashing waves, could not find a single word adequate to describe what he heard that morning." Think about that. The loudest sound in human history, and the only honest response from an eyewitness was, "I have no words." That was 1883. The earth still carries the scar. Anak Krakatoa still rises from the sea. The pressure is still building. And somewhere beneath the ocean floor of the Sunda Strait, 140 years of silence is slowly, steadily becoming something else entirely. The question is not if, the question is when. If this made you feel something, subscribe. Because next week, we're going back to another moment when the Earth reminded us who's really in charge.